in. I'm like, it's weird to not do it over Instagram and stuff. Now it's like it's just gonna be minutes and minutes of silence like that equate to all the time that I'm waiting for you to respond.
Nah, it's gonna be all right.
Yeah.
We are live though.
Yeah. That's all I think. Okay, but all right. So welcome to DM therapy. This is basically a conversation between myself and Khadijah that we usually have on Instagram, but we brought it into the real world. No, I guess maybe this is not the real world. We brought it to you guys so you guys can hear it too and be eavesdrop on some of our conversations and some of the stuff that we talk about. I know it's usually helpful for me to just be able to come to somebody and talk about any and everything. We're not going to share any and everything, but I think we're going to most of the stuff that we talk about, we're going to talk about here. So let's just get into it. Would you rather have a pause button or a rewind button?
Rewind button.
How come?
Because I think that if I could just go back a few years, I could make some better decisions. It's not really anything I want to pause on right now. Like, actually, things are kind of going pretty good. So, I won't want to stop the momentum I have now. I don't need to pause. But if I could just go back, then.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel a lot of my kids, they'll say rewind. No, a lot of them say pause because a lot of my students, man, they just be so angry sometimes, or like little high. I got a little hothead little student right now who got in trouble at work, and I was doing some mediation yesterday for her because and it's so funny because it's like you hear this all the time, but another young lady was like trying to be all playful with her at work, and she was like, she don't know me, we don't even talk like that, like, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, I've heard that kind of, I've heard that before, where it's like, you can't just play with everybody the same way, especially if you don't know them, like, you know what I mean? And she she was upset. She called me up, she texted me, she was like, I don't know if they called you, but I might get suspended. I was like, listen, it's gonna be all right, but you have to be, you have to take a moment and calm yourself down. I knew already what happened before she even told me, because I know she's a little like hot box, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I know she gets upset. So yeah, I think a lot of them are like, yeah, I'd rather pause so I can just chill for a second and get myself together and then move forward. But I don't know about rewind. For me, I feel like they both have merit. Now I'm doing like how they do, because it's like, well, it's kind of like both. But yeah, I like the idea of pausing because I think if I can imagine a lot of people, if given the opportunity, would love to be able to think of the perfect thing to say, or like I was saying, like calm down. Like, I get real excited sometimes, so it's like you miss out on what you want to say, or how I don't really like when people like try to talk fast at me. So I'm like, all right, chill, pause, chill out. Let me get my thought out, or or like that clip you sent me of the guy talking to the two young ladies in the UK, about, what I mean? He was just like, but this and this, and it's like, yeah, he was right, but I feel like the way he went about it, it makes it messed up, because you kind of steamrolling after a while, and that's not really like. Not that it's supposed to be premier journalism, but you know what I'm saying?
He was trying to fast talk them, trying to get them tongue tied and caught up to make it seem like they didn't know what they were trying to say. So
whereas for me, I'm like, you were having teachable moment. I guess everything I'm looking at through the lens of like an educator or whatever. Like you had a moment to be like, as opposed to being like, well, you don't know this, or you know, what I mean, what about this? What, you know, it's all right. It's just chill, and you know, you could have enhanced to people's perception in that moment, as opposed to. But I guess what he did gave it clicks. You know what I mean, and obviously we shared it, so and we
Yeah.
had a moment about it. I don't know if he sat down with them and had tea with them, and you know,
Yeah, because I don't feel like
as Discord,
I don't
yeah,
feel like they got it. I still
yeah,
feel like they
yeah,
didn't get the
nah.
point because of the way he
Well,
was acting. So you
I think
probably
yeah, that's what I feel like when I was going to respond to you, but I feel like they probably thought it was going to be like a Riz video where they's like, oh, what he going to say? He's like, you know, he's attractive and he going to come up to us and say some cute stuff or whatever. But it was like a whole history whole history lesson, and they weren't ready. So
not you saying Riz though, but
I,
okay.
I listen. I'm I'm
Not you,
young.
not
I'm
you.
young. I don't. Yo, my one of my students today. I'm trying to get them jobs in the summer. So I was like, "Do you want to be a part of this program?" I used to be the director of this program. It's really cool or whatever, and it just so happens to be about drug prevention and drug awareness. And the one girl, you know, when you hear that, you're like, "Oh no, I'm not into that," because like you know, a lot of smoke, you know, I mean, whatever. A lot of them do whatever they do. So she, so she was like, "No," I was like, "Listen, I'm gonna show you the IG, then you can see how." And she was like, "The IG." I was like, "That's not even like slang, like you know what I mean? It's just what it is. Like I'm not as old as you know what I'm saying as they want to make me out. I might be corny, but I ain't like you know what I mean. It's purposeful, you know."
But you don't gotta try to hit me with the
There is. You knew what I meant though. I mean,
only because you literally just told
but
me what it was because I didn't
but
know what you're talking about then.
no, but that's like all the videos that I send. They all have that kind of hashtag, or they always say, you know, they always they always say Rez. Now, but now, you know, I'm doing. You familiar with Duolingo, like the language app, John?
It's funny that you asked me that. I'm not, but the twins on their tablets, every time they try to download the app, it sends me an
Mm-hmm.
email asking for my approval, and they keep trying to download that app, and
Oh, it's so
I
funny.
didn't know what it was, so I'm just like, no.
So,
Um,
excuse me. So yeah, they have a it's an app. It's really dope because it gives you an opportunity to just practice whatever language, and it got a whole bunch of them. This podcast is sponsored by Duolingo. Put in the code, uh, whatever this is going to be
put in
called,
the code Riz.
slash Riz. Yeah. Um, but it's really dope. Like I've had it for a long time. I am determined to be able to speak fluent French, and
Mm.
but so they give you lessons and like it's like little animated things where it's like, oh, you did so good, and you know, 5 in a row or whatever it is, or whatever. And now since I've been watching them Rez videos, all I do is the Snoop on that motherfucker. Don't miss. Like every time I do something, you know, get my little 10 in a row. I'm like, yeah, no,
Oh
I'm
my
like really
god.
excited about doing it. But I like it's cool though now because they have podcasts. I swear we're not sponsored by them, but we need to be. They have like little 20-minute podcasts you can listen to, and have you know it has them speaking in whatever language that you're trying to you know that you're trying to learn. So it's cool. But for your boys, I, I haven't been on it in like a year, but I've just been doing it for the last however like 20 days or something like that. I think that's my streak right now. And apparently they have one for math now, so it might actually be a good look because it's just constant practice of math themes. So I know I had a student that did that learned German doing it, and you know, it's just a nice little. Just like you go on Angry Birds or you go on any of those little things that you do, you might as well spend 15, 20 minutes a day, you know, learning something and learning, you know, something that you might be interested in. And, you know, it's bright colors and, you know, I mean, it got like little dings when you do you know, you get the right answer and stuff or whatever. So it's like, you know,
Okay.
hopefully it'll work because when I went to Paris, the bull at the Starbucks was trying to play me. I took 3 years of French in high school, you know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you know, I ordered tea and croissants when I got there, and he was looking at me like, what? And like, he's trying to play me. He was trying to,
Sir, you know what I said. Like, you're doing too much.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah, I'm
mean,
definitely going to download. Let them download the app.
yeah, you should. Yeah, I think it's dope. But yeah, every time we talk about the pause and rewind, that movie with Adam Sandler, the dang, what is it
Click.
called now? Click. Yeah, Click comes up because, you know, obviously it's issues with having that kind of power. And I did it today with my students that the class that I was in today, and one of the girls was like, I would just push pause, and she was like, this might sound bad, but I would go into a store, push pause, and take all the stuff.
Oh
It's like,
Lord.
so I was like, show of hands, how many people are going to use this for evil? You know, I mean, they all was like, you know, I could.
My kids always said that though. Like if they had superpowers, like why would I be a superhero? I'm definitely gonna be a villain. So I guess
That's
that's how the kids think.
I guess so. I will, you know, that's so funny. Yeah, I wouldn't know. I don't skew towards doing wrong things, but it ain't great to be a superhero neither, as a lot of
No.
these shows now are kind of showing and depicting. But yeah,
Well, not in the
yeah,
beginning anyway. They
yeah.
always get trashed, which makes me think about like my kids. Well, one of my kids, my daughter, she asked me a question the other day, so I'm going to ask you
Hmm.
because these are kind of conversations that we have all the time. So
Hmm.
the question is, she wanted to know like what's the purpose of life. Not even from a religious standpoint, but like how do you know what your purpose is in life and like what is the
Hmm.
purpose of life? And I know we talked about this a million different times, but just your point of view on like how do you find your purpose and what is the purpose?
That's so funny. Yeah, I love that. It's like, you know, nothing real serious or whatever, but like, why are we here at all?
Because I'm
Um,
like, girl, I don't know.
yeah. So what is the purpose, and how do you find your purpose? Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one because it's like, well, I will say this: to find your purpose, this, I'm just gonna keep on shouting at my students, but I think to find your purpose, you have to, like, sometimes you just feel it, right? You feel like a strong inclination toward uh just doing something. Like when I was little, I must have saw I saw you know, I saw Michael Jackson, and I was like, oh man, this is dope. I saw Prince. My dad was a big Prince fan. I saw him playing the guitar, and I was like, oh, I want to play the guitar. So well, I got one of those. I don't know if you remember them toys. It was like a guitar toy, and you push the button, and it just would play. Like it didn't have no strings; it had buttons, and
Hmm.
it would play a melody. I can't remember what it's
Hmm.
called, but I would have one of them, and I had my little Star Studio box, and everything kind of led toward me playing instruments and singing. I used to sing in the church choir and stuff like that. So I was led toward that, right? But I was also had I like to draw, like, you know what I'm saying. So like my answer to that question would be as many things as you feel, or like you feel like a passion toward it, even an inkling toward, you should try those things out. Like, you know, it's funny because I think a lot of people think in terms of purpose, and they have someone else project their purpose onto them, like, oh well, you have to be this and you have to be that, you have to be successful, in whatever way that is. And a lot of times I think what you'll find is, depending on what your parents view of success is, that might be the, you know, the place where you go, you know what I'm saying? So you know, it's a lot of families that have a lineage of law enforcement or doctors, or, you know, my dad's a lawyer, and you know, this and that. So you know, they'll be like, oh well, I'm gonna be a lawyer, or just the thing that the family puts in high standard. Then, like, you know, it's like, oh, it's like that. It's funny because I always hear like actors, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, and like all the actors and the musicians and stuff, when people ask them what they want their kids to do the thing that they did, they're always like no, like, you know what I mean, it's like, oh, this is such a hard industry and things like that, so they won't they don't want the same thing for their kid, for their kids. But I think in quote unquote like normal households, it's always like, I've always thought that being a doctor is successful, so you won't be a doctor, like, you know what I mean. And we
Yeah.
kind of push that. We kind of push that on our kids. But my answer to that would be just try as many things as you can. If you don't already have a natural inclination toward doing something, then just try as many things as you can. Like, what did you want to be when you grew up? I'm asking you. Like, what did you think you were going to do?
Either an engineer or a Navy SEAL.
A Navy SEAL?
Yeah, when I
I
realized that
think I
they
never
didn't
heard you say
accept
that before.
women, I was like, all right, well,
Oh,
believe
is
it
that
or not,
true?
you know when that happened? I didn't have any goals for life until it might have been eighth grade.
Okay.
One, I know I was at Transy,
When you
and
clearly graduated with us, like I already knew.
yeah, a engineer and a Navy SEAL, and
But
there were other people that
where did
came.
that come from though? Like, where did?
They came to my classroom, and they were
Oh,
talking about, it was like a career day or something, and I was like,
oh,
"What? A Navy? Oh, it was a man, of course, because there's no
yeah,
women." And I was like, "Oh, that's me." He was like, "We don't
yeah.
accept women." I was like, "What?"
Oh, it's that women. That's what's so that we talking about 92, 90, no,
Mhm.
90, 90, yeah, 90,
Yeah, like
93 ish.
90. And
Yeah,
I literally, all through high school, like in my head, I kept saying, like, I thought I was going to be G.I. Jane. Like, I'm like, nah,
yeah.
I'm
And they
going
were
to
like,
I'm gonna
they
break
said that
that
straight up.
tradition. And yeah, he straight up was like, nah, you can't be a Navy. So I literally went up to
Oh.
him, and my memory is horrible. So certain things I remember, like I'll never
Mhm.
forget that, because I went up to him afterwards, like, yo, this is for me. And he was like,
Yeah.
nah, go ahead, little girl, you can't do it.
It's
And in
like
my head, I'm
you could be
like,
a
no,
nurse.
yeah,
Or
a
yeah.
secretary or something. And in my
Yeah.
head, I was like, oh, nah, I'm gonna do that. And and then when I got to high school, I was thinking about the engineer, and I always wanted to do that too. I wanted to do both. Um, but then, life happened, and I couldn't
Life
finish
happening.
school and all that kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
they still were like, you can't be in a Navy SEAL girl. So I was like, all right,
Yeah,
well,
that's so wild though. It's so funny because it's like you think of things in time where it's like that was like to me, obviously to somebody that's 40, right? It don't feel like a long time ago. Now to my students, it might feel like it's 100 years ago, but it's like how far we've come or haven't come, in this world. Like that was, that was 30 years ago, you know what I'm
mhm.
saying? And they were like, no, we don't want girls. Like, I can't, I just, it's just like it's so hard to believe. And they just like took that hard stance. It's just so funny that you say that though, because I had a session yesterday and half of the young men that's in the class didn't come because the Marines was there and they had this pull-up bar. They brought a chin-up, like a pull-up bar to the school, and it was like they was like, basically riling up all the young men. They was like, oh, test, how, like as if doing pull-ups is what's going to make you successful in the army. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's such
But
a weird thing. Oh, what'd you say? Oh, I thought you
now
was
I'm saying you had them doing pull ups, and now they out at sea trying to
yeah.
launch missiles, scared to death.
Yeah, I told my dad. It's so funny. We were driving yesterday, or yeah, yesterday after that, and I was saying the same thing. He was like, yeah. He was like, when they came. Oh, he had a one of my like god uncles or whatever. They were homies when when he was younger, and he only joined the army because my uncle was like, oh, it's this and this that, and he's like, when I got there, he was like, I know what I was getting myself into. I had no idea. So it's like, and then my two brothers, um, they said they came to Parkway, and they almost both of them almost joined the army because the selling point is such a good it's so it's like, oh, be a man and be be like, they look so strong. It's probably the first depiction of like independence and strength and all those things. So it's very alluring. I can imagine it's like super alluring to be like, oh, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna be all I can be.
I think that was the draw with this is kind of like switching a little bit with the
Yeah.
Nation of Islam,
Mm-hmm.
because black people were in poverty, and
Mm-hmm.
the women were starting to work and do different things, and the family structure was breaking up. And then
Mm-hmm.
here comes the Nation of Islam, like, no, we're gonna put the men in the head of the household, and we teach
Mm-hmm.
them how to march and how to hold guns and protect
Yeah.
the family. So I don't even think it was more so about the religious aspect of it and Allah and Islam per se. It
Mm-hmm.
was more that we're feeding your family. We're
Yeah.
teaching you how to be strong. We're teaching you
Yeah.
how to be
How to
men.
how to
And
go
if you
about like
didn't have that,
how to adult. Yeah.
yeah. And my
Yeah.
dad, when he went to the army, he said he same thing like the recruiter. And this was,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, when the heck did he go into army, in the 70s, I guess.
Yeah.
And he said the recruiter told him it wasn't a war going on. He said he got there and it was the Vietnam War. I always thought that
Oh
was so
my.
funny when he told that story. He ended up getting a dishonorable discharge because he was like, that's not for me. Like the way that
Yeah.
they treat you and talk to you and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, even
Yeah.
outside of, basic training. He was
Yeah.
like, so he like had a little salt charge or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the crazy thing, and I can imagine, especially back then, where you don't see a whole bunch of young black people like now. Like it's so weird because it's so much. It's a lot of opportunity. It's like I was I was talking to my mom. My parents are my best friends. I was talking to my mom yesterday, and I was telling her about the young lady, and it's so weird because like I'm doing these scholarships. I give out scholarships um, to kids. This will be my second year doing it, and but we give out these scholarships. So on one hand, I see like all these like young, like vibrant people, like where it's like none of the narrative in the news or anybody that I talk to are about these kids that I get. I get they do an application for me. So they send me their resume, they send me their transcript, they do like an essay for me, and I get to see their grades and kind of like their extracurriculars. I'm like, where is the stories at about all these kids? Like, what I mean? Because I at least see about 150 of them a year, what I'm saying? And all of them are pristine. Like I probably get two or three that's just like, oh, I like money, you know what I mean? But the rest of them is like, I'm going, like last year I gave out a couple of them where the kid had to decline because they already had a full scholarship to Penn. Like, what I'm saying? You already done. I'm like, no, you can't even, I can't even help you with my little money that I'm trying to give out. But, they were like amazing kids. And then I got to meet with them and I got to talk to them and they're like, yeah, I want to do such and such thing. Like things that I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is the next level of thing, like and they all they're all on it. Then I have the contrast though of the student like I was talking about where she lived basically in the street, like for in that kind of street mindset where it's just like, listen, I am very protective of myself, what I'm saying, you can't talk to me any kind of way, and it's like it's such a I can imagine that the draw of I don't, I can't, I don't think anybody has ever really spoken to that young lady in the way that people are speaking to those other kids. And they're the same age, you know what I'm saying? These are
Hmm.
all seniors in high school. So, it's just such a weird contrast. I don't really know where I was going with that, but, yeah, it's just so weird that,
But I think that's an actual topic that we could probably talk about like
yeah.
on the next show, because I really think like two kids can grow up in the same house as American
Mm-hmm.
and get
Yeah.
the same parenting, and then one kid will, like in my household for example, my brother
Mm-hmm.
never got over some things that he dealt with, and
Yeah.
he chose to do the street life. Me, on the other hand, I couldn't get over a lot of things, and I kind of like refused to be a certain type of way. There
Yeah.
was times where I was here by myself
Mm-hmm.
all night, and I could have been out in the street, but I was like, I'm doing my homework. I want to be an engineer.
Right.
I
Right.
remember being in school, like at the board with the physics teacher, like, bro, I don't know what you're talking about. I know that they acting crazy. Can you
Mm-hmm.
teach me this? And like
Yeah.
yelling at the classroom, like, yo, y'all don't gotta learn this. Be quiet. Like,
Yeah.
people still talk about that to this day. Like, I was serious about that because in my mind, I said, this is not cool. I
Yeah.
gotta make sure I don't ever have to go back to that. Where he was like, this is not cool. I'm acting up.
Yeah,
So
that's so interesting. I didn't even think about the same household, but like it was definitely kids on my block. A lot of them aren't here anymore. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, legit. So I mean, and we're all very similar, and we might not be the same age, but we're very similar in age. We live on the same block, but I come back home from college, and you're gone. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's like, it's such a weird contrast of like, how do you grow up in the same? Because it's not necessarily like you're saying. It's not necessarily neighborhood. It's not necessarily like what it. So yeah, we can talk about that. But yeah,
we can
that's
definitely
so.
talk about that on the next show.
Yeah,
I
I
think,
want to get into that for sure.
yeah, this show was great for our first episode. Do you have any
Yeah.
like last parting words?
Yeah, this gonna be my sign off. I heard this and I just love it. Don't match energy, model energy. I just love that idea. Don't match energy, model energy. I feel like a lot of people are doing that. So I say that every time I end the class. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, don't like, what do you mean? Like, if you won't act some way to me, I'm gonna act the same way to you. But it doesn't even sound right. Like, it doesn't even sound like, oh, I'm gonna come back and be the same way. You already don't like how I'm acting towards you, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna come back to you and be the same way. Like, that don't. So basically, what you're automatically telling me, I'm gonna reduce myself to your standards to,
right.
what I mean, to be equal with you. Which stay up,
Oh, I love that. I
stay
need
all
I
the way.
need a cool sign off now.
Oh
I gotta
yeah,
think of one. I gotta think of one for next time. But
just make one up.
all right, we'll make one.
Don't always
Don't
never.
always act the same way they act to you. You act different.
you just you just say the same thing. Don't
Be
always never. And when don't just like that Kevin Hart. Don't do this to me because that's what you did. I'm like, it's not a thing.
all right.
Yeah, that was cool. Man.
All right, so say it one more time so we can end. You gotta just say it in
Man,
a
I forget.
real, like in a real cool voice. Like,
listen, guys. This is this is over my hair. Y'all don't know me, but I just want y'all to know. Don't match energy. Model energy.